then you could be a good Christian. And I remember, so then we got to a Pope, which was a whole foreign concept for me. And it was Pope John Paul II and his encyclical Fides et Ratio, right? Faith and Reason. And it was only, I think only the quote was like the opening paragraph. And it just stuck with me. It was like a splinter in the back of my mind that would not leave me alone, because it said that faith and reason were harmonious. Faith and reason were the two wings on which man ascended to God. I was like, no one has ever spoken about faith and reason that way, ever in my life. No one has ever done that. And again, Catholicism was so foreign to me, so foreign. You had Mary and purgatory and like the cult of the saints and relics. I mean, just like, it's like one thing to be like, oh, faith and reason, that is fantastic. And then you like, look up pictures of Catholicism online and it's like people kneeling and kissing bones. And I'm like, okay, I don't know exactly how to handle this. My friend I'd met at Oral Roberts started taking me to the Latin Mass, actually. So I went straight, you have to realize that what I went from was like people running around with 30-foot purple ribbons, praying in tongues, throwing glitter, and having rock concerts, to the Latin Mass. I remember being, at first, just really taken back by the solemnity of it all. Like something, I didn't understand the Eucharist, I didn't understand anything. But I understand like something's going on here, something very important. And then about halfway through, I was like, this is the most boring thing I've ever been through my life. And I distinctly remember looking up at the crucifix, and the priest is up at the altar, and I just remember like, I am so used to being entertained. I do not know worship outside entertainment. I don't know. So, and I just remember from there on, I really had a hunger to go to the Mass and to learn about it. But it was still a very foreign concept, because a lot of, I started reading a lot of the early church fathers, right? And all of a sudden they are talking about Mass and bishops and priests and the Eucharist and a whole jargon that I've never been familiar with growing up charismatic. And, but I was like, well, where is this church? Like that was my largest concern, is I'm starting to understand the early church fathers. I'm starting to understand their wisdom and their critiques and what really mattered to the Christians just a generation away from Christ, right? They weren't praying for new Mercedes. They actually weren't even praying for themselves to all be healed. They were praying for a good and glorious death, right? They were praying to be worthy to take the Eucharist. Concepts that were just really far removed. So I had to have something that showed me this church was alive and well.
Coming up, we'll see what prompted Harrison's conversion.
Both sides of our family are somewhat unsettled, because obviously this isn't the wedding that they were planning for, right? They had all these ideas and we're like, well, there's this thing called the Mass, and we're going to have, a Mass.